Joining us now, live at the desk, Fox Business anchor David Asman and Fox News contributor Liz Peek. Very glad to have you both with us tonight. David, I'll shoot it over your way first to talk about the big budget. Now, he says he doesn't want to raise property taxes. It's the last thing he wants to do. It's one of the first things he brought up in the whole budget debate. I don't think he minds it all that much,
Well,
David.
I agree with you 100%. I don't think he does mind it. And I don't think he minds if it hurts private property in New York. By the way, his tax increase, the one he can do without the support from the state capital in Albany, would affect 3 million residential units in the city. The New Yorkers owning them have a median income of $122,000. Now, that may sound like a lot if you're living in Oklahoma. $122,000 a year is not a lot in New York City. He talked about the middle class. It is the middle class that his tax increase on private property will hurt. But he, as we mentioned before, he doesn't really care about private property. He wants to decommodify private property, which is a Marxist term for getting rid of private property, ending it as a tradable asset, and handing it over to the government. That's why you never hear Marxists talk about the middle class or caring about the middle class or caring about homeowners. It's always the renters. It's always the poor. Like most Marxists, they want everybody to be pushed down to the level of poverty. That way they'll be equal.
And something that strikes me, Liz, that we just heard Mayor Mamdani say is that the middle class had nothing to do with creating this budget deficit. But I think everyone ought to be reminded what did add to this budget deficit, because former Mayor Eric Adams warned about it during his administration. He warned that taking on all of the illegal migrants that Joe Biden sent to New York City would create a hole of $12 billion was projected. And that is exactly what we're seeing right now. So I guess in fairness to Mamdani, in some ways he's right. It wasn't the middle class that created this. It was all part of the migrant issues and the migrant policy from the Biden administration. But now who's going to pay for it? David's right.
Yeah, and by the way, it wasn't the taxpayers, it wasn't the top 1% or the top 10% that created the fiscal crisis either. They're the people who've actually been funding the budget all these years. Look, New York City does not have a revenue problem. It has an expenditure problem. When you consider that for example, the school population, the kids in school, down about 15% over the last 5 or 6 years, budget up $9 billion. Look at the Medicaid budget. Incredible fraud in New York City and New York State, but Medicaid is one of the worst run organizations anywhere in the country, and it's out of control. Look, Mamdani has no good options because, in fact, our property taxes are among the highest in the country and our income taxes are amongst the highest in the country. So where do you go? You go on the expense line, not on the revenue line, because they're losing people, they're losing hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers, and they're not losing migrants. They're losing the people that are paying the taxes.
Yeah, he's growing the expense line, unfortunately, which is why we've got this problem.
That's exactly right.
I want to move on to this. After totally embarrassing herself at the Munich security conference, AOC sprinted to the New York Times this week looking to do a little damage control, an attempt to quiet the talk of her 2028 aspirations. I love this. Quote, "Everyone's got this story wrong that this is about me running for president. I could give, whatever about that, to be honest. Am I acting like someone who's trying to run? No, because I'm there for a very different, specific purpose." Liz, I come back to you on this one. This is one of my favorite little vignettes, let's say, of the last couple days. AOC in Munich. It's not about her presidential run.
Yeah,
she's just there because she's a foreign policy expert.
She had a very important message to deliver, which is that income inequality is going to basically torch democracy in the West. Interestingly, it just happened that today The Economist magazine came out with a piece saying, you know what? Income inequality is on the wane, not because incomes aren't going up for wealthy people, but because in almost every country, the tax rates have gotten more and more progressive. And in fact, after tax, income inequality has diminished, including in the United States. So guess what? AOC is out of touch with what's going on in the world economically. Honestly, I think she's kind of a bonehead about economics anyway, and her fluff on foreign policy, maybe she doesn't want to run for president. I sure hope not for her sake, because if this was her inaugural foreign policy sail, it went ashore
That's an
on the
insult
rocks
to fluff.
pretty quickly. Yeah, exactly.
So she's no good on foreign policy. She's no good on economics.
She
kind
really
of
isn't.
important subjects to be briefed on. If you're gonna
David,
run
she's
for
talking about a
president.
wealth tax on the continent of Europe, where almost every country had one and rejected it because it lost money. So
But she had
these
such a
people aren't
great-
even serious.
She had such a great answer on Taiwan, though, didn't
Yeah,
she?
I know. I was,
You could- it
I
was-
was
20 seconds
so
to answer.
uncomfortable.
90% of it was
Right.
I mean, it was, and of course, came up with things like whiteness is imaginary. I mean, there was a whole slew of stuff we could talk about there, but it wasn't. Thank God for the New York Times for her sake, because they came and tried to
It's
bail her out.
crazy, though, that she could run to the New York Times and say, help me, bail me out here. I'm really struggling. And
But
they're like, yeah,
actually,
sure, let's do it.
If you read the story that the Times wrote, first story that they wrote was very condemning of her inability to answer a very simple ABC question about foreign policy. And frankly, the follow-up story wasn't much better. I mean, it really went into the fact that she kind of missed the boat.
Really interesting that she thought she could get some comfort from the New York Times. She's got a really robust social media following, but she placed that phone call to a reporter, I assume one of her favorite, trying to
Yes.
look for some comfort, and maybe he really didn't do her any favors. I don't know. But let's just talk trade while you both are here, because Canada is looking to create a new anti-Trump trade pact with a 12-nation Indo-Pacific bloc. But this, of course, is coming as we're also waiting for the Supreme Court to release its decisions on Friday. It could possibly include this long-awaited big tariff ruling. It could potentially come this week or maybe soon thereafter. We never really quite know, David. But let's just talk about this trade bloc first. You know, Canada, Europe, they're getting together. They're trying to maneuver around Trump.
Good luck.
Is this something that the U.S., it sounds like we shouldn't really be worried about.
When I read the story first, I thought back to all the times when Carney has visited the White House, maybe 2 or 3 times. But whenever you see that, the big footing that President Trump gives him is almost, it's cringeworthy, because the guy just has no stamina, he has no backbone, he doesn't know how to stand up for himself. So he waits until he's out of the White House, he waits until he's been beaten down by President Trump, and then kind of kowtows his way over to China and with the European nations, et cetera. If he thinks he's going to get a better deal from any of them that he could get from the strongest economy in the world, which is right on his southern border, and which the western part of his nation relies on terribly. In fact, some of those western states are pretty close to accepting themselves as another state of the United States. I mean, they're getting pretty fed up with him and his negotiating. How this guy ever became a business associate and negotiator is beyond me. But I don't see him winning this debate in any way, shape, or form.
Liz, I don't understand. You know, Canada and the EU want to pair up on a trade deal, and I guess bring Indo-Pacific. But I'm like, don't you have to make something to be in a trade deal? Like, a bunch of people who make less and less every year are going to get together in a trade deal. What are you going to trade? Insults about President Trump?
Well, it is interesting, and I think slightly concerning, that Canada is producing fewer and fewer American cars, American branded cars. And I think what they may be threatening, they're talking with China possibly about bringing a BYD plant to Canada. But what's President Trump going to do? He's going to say, okay, 200% tariffs on EVs made by BYD. Sorry about all the language. But they want to make electric vehicles in Canada. Who are they going to sell them to?
Right.
I mean, Canada's a tiny country. They're not going to have a market there for them. So I don't think this works in terms of geopolitical strategy. I agree with you. I think he's way over his skis.
He is.
Yeah.
He is.
Anyway.
Again,
Time to haul him
we love
back into the White
Canada.
House.
We love them being our neighbor and everything, but to try to put himself on par with the United States and Bigfoot Donald Trump in some way with our European allies is ridiculous.
David Asman, Liz Peek, super fun to be with you.
Thank
for
you.
hitting
Thanks
a
for
range of
having us.
subjects
Absolutely.
with us.